Work began on this review in early September with the hope that it would be released on Halloween. Did I succeed? Fuck knows, check the publishing date or look outside to see if any cosplayers are still embracing pumpkin sploshing. Joker depicts the events that transforms Arthur Fleck into the title character. It's honestly as simple as that. Plus I can't waffle on for too long in the name of Deadline, especially since I spent most of mid-October embracing Amsterdam. You know, for the architecture, the tulips, and Frank's house. Oh, and I fucking love canals. I really enjoyed how realistic the movie is. It lacks that far-fetched quality that comes with most, I was about to say superhero movies, but this is far from that. It's darker, grittier, and way more grounded compared to the usual vibe one would expect from the genre. The whole thing feels legit, and the DC-infused historical threads have been beautifully woven through genuine real-life events that have taken place in some form or another. By this I mean the economical downturn plaguing Gotham generates dangerous levels of highly pressured frustration which can lead to social division, and potentially riots have been seen on the news since the dawn of time. As has circumstances when said city is poverty-stricken as well as emptily promised reform by the supposedly sympathetic wealthy businessman in exchange for undeserved power. You don't have to be a genius to work out where the fuck that is happening in 2019. On the whole, it's a well-made movie. The structure is sturdy. All 117 minutes are used efficiently, resulting in decent pacing and maintained interest. There is action, but it's not a consistent feature, and neither is it the good guy versus bad guy scenario you would typically expect from a DC movie. Yes, I know this is a film about arguably one of the most iconic villains in the history of comic books, but he wasn't the badass crime lord we know and love at this stage of his life, so the combat you did see was predominantly internal, with the occasional spill into society reminiscent of the manner that my cum drips out of your mum's panty hamster and onto your freshly tumble-dried sheets. I have complaints because of course I do. The film is very predictable in places, which overall doesn't ruin the experience, but I found it frustrating when I could see where the movie was going before it got there. I'm certain some of the hilarious moments provided weren't designed to be taken as such, however it could be argued that this was an intentional move on the part of the writers. The perception of what is considered as humour is one of the messages that Joker is trying to put across. With that said, I'd like to disclaim that I would never ever give DC the benefit of the doubt because, well, DC. So feel free to take that whole point as moot. Speaking of messages, the monologue delivered by the title character towards the end of the final act was completely unnecessary. I'm not going to recite it for you. In short, the speech was about social division and perception of humour, which, as previously mentioned in this review, is what the movie is all about. Concluding itself by summarising its entire subject matter and narrative by ways of a dialogue snippet tells me that the writers didn't have enough faith in their own work to believe that the story was told efficiently enough, so they implemented a failsafe, or it thinks that the audience are fucking morons. The speech, despite the epicness of the event that followed, completely undermined the everything and was almost more numbing than having to see Bruce Wayne's parents die for what feels like the trillionth time. No spoiler warning required, surely. Even those who have only dipped their tip into this universe would be aware of Thomas and Martha Wayne's demise, because DC has never failed to continuously remind us about it since before a time when Wi-Fi was a thing. Yes, I'm aware that the purpose of this scene was to portray that Batman and the Joker were born on the same night, but compared to the other discreetly mingled Batman-related material, this felt like an afterthought more careless than Gary Glitter's sexual preferences. What's the fucking point in trying to avoid it anymore? No, I don't think that Joaquin Phoenix's version of the Joker was better than Heath Ledger's interpretation, but in truth a comparison seems practically null. Reverting back to my earlier point, Phoenix's Joker wasn't Batman's nemesis at this stage of his career. This is more of an origin story, so there is fuckloads of character development between the two. That's not my way of saying that Phoenix did a bad job, his performance was far from that. I appreciated the fact that the transformation from Arthur to Joker was a slow process. We actually didn't get to see the latter in full force until the final act. This pissed off some of the fanbase, but in my mind the Joker arrived at the perfect moment. The reason being is that the aforementioned transformation was really fucking immersive. Arthur is easily the most realistic protagonist to have ever come out of the DC universe. He wasn't born into unfathomable wealth and limitless resources. He doesn't possess any superpowers that have been with him since the beginning. There was no freak accident that resulted in him acquiring special abilities, and he is definitely not Steppenwolf. This twat, not the band. Joker is a product of Arthur's world, constantly grinding away against whatever shred of patience and sanity remained until the inevitable happened. There was no chemical spillage, no prophet telling him that destiny is on its way or any other generic Genesis chapter. What we have is a regular bloke that life decided to treat like utter shit, and here we are. This makes Arthur, at least on some level, extremely relatable because nobody gets through this whole existence thing unscathed. As a result of this, despite by all accounts being the bad guy, you can't help but root for him because of how immersed you are in the familiar. The relatability combined with the brilliant execution of depiction makes this role a highlight of Phoenix's career. Is it Oscar worthy? Fuck knows. But it can be unanimously agreed that this portrayal of the role is a masterpiece compared to Jared Leto's attempt at ruination. So yeah, Joker is good. But it isn't the film that it's made out to be. I can certainly see why it has divided critics and the audience though, where one person finds humour, another can find tragedy. Or as I like to call it, the Holocaust equation.